Lesson 39. My holiness is my salvation. If guilt is hell, what is its opposite? Like the text for which this workbook was written, the ideas used for the exercises are very simple, very clear, and totally unambiguous. We are not concerned with intellectual feats nor logical toys. We are dealing only in the very obvious, which has been overlooked in the clouds of complexity in which you think. If guilt is hell, what is its opposite? This is not difficult, surely. The hesitation you may feel in answering is not due to the ambiguity of the question, but do you believe that guilt is hell? If you did, you would see at once how direct and simple the text is, and you would not need a workbook at all. No one needs practice to gain what is already his. We have already said that your holiness is the salvation of the world. What about your own salvation? You cannot give what you do not have. A Saviour must be saved. How else can he teach salvation? Today's exercises will apply to you, recognizing that your salvation is crucial to the salvation of the world. As you apply the exercises to your world, the whole world stands to benefit. Your holiness is the answer to every question that was ever asked, is being asked now, or will be asked in the future. Your holiness means the end of guilt, and therefore the end of hell. Your holiness is the salvation of the world, and your own. How could you, to whom your holiness belongs, be excluded from it? God does not know unholiness. Can it be he does not know his Son? A full 5 minutes are urged for the 4 longer practice periods for today, and longer and more frequent practice sessions are encouraged. If you want to exceed the minimum requirements, more rather than longer sessions are recommended, although both are suggested. Begin the practice periods as usual by repeating today's idea to yourself. Then, with eyes closed, search out your unloving thoughts in whatever form they may appear: uneasiness, depression, anger, fear, worry, attack, insecurity, and so on. Whatever form they take, they are unloving and therefore fearful, and so it is from them that you need to be saved. Specific situations, events, or personalities you associate with unloving thoughts of any kind are suitable subjects for today's exercises. It is imperative for your salvation that you see them differently, and it is your blessing on them that they will save you and give you vision. Slowly, without conscious selection and without undue emphasis on anyone in particular, search your mind for every thought that stands between you and your salvation. Apply the idea for today to each of them in this way. My unloving thoughts about blank are keeping me in hell. My holiness is my salvation. You may find these practice periods easier if you intersperse them with several short periods during which you barely repeat today's idea to yourself slowly a few times. You may also find it helpful to include a few short intervals in which you just relax and do not seem to be thinking of anything. Sustained concentration is very difficult at first. It will become much easier as your mind becomes more disciplined and less distractible. Meanwhile, you should feel free to introduce variety into the exercise periods in whatever form appeals to you. Do not, however, change the idea itself as you vary the method of applying it. However you elect to use it, the idea should be stated so that its meaning is the fact that your holiness is your salvation. End each practice period by repeating the idea in its original form once more and adding, if guilt is hell, what is its opposite? In the shorter applications, which should be made some 3 or 4 times an hour and more if possible, you may ask yourself this question, repeat today's idea, and preferably both. If temptations arise, a particularly helpful form of the idea is, my holiness is my salvation from this. Lesson 39. My holiness is my salvation. The illusion of complexity. A group of students sat before their teacher, eager for wisdom. One asked, Master, how do I find truth? The teacher smiled and held up a simple stone. Here it is. The students frowned. No, we mean the deep hidden truth, the kind that requires great intelligence to uncover. The teacher chuckled. Ah, you want an intellectual feat, a puzzle so intricate that only the cleverest can solve it, a logical toy to play with. But what if truth is simple? So simple, in fact, that it has been overlooked in the clouds of complexity in which you think. The students stared, confused. What does that mean? Tell me, the teacher said. When you were children, did you struggle to understand how to be joyful? Did you need books to explain how to laugh? No, one replied. We just were happy. Exactly, said the teacher. You did not need to achieve happiness. You only lost sight of it. Now you seek complicated answers, but you are simply trying to remember what was always yours. The teacher set down the stone. If guilt is hell, what is its opposite? Guilt is hell, a prison of our own making. Imagine a man standing before a judge, waiting for his sentence. He is accused of a terrible crime, and the evidence is overwhelming. The judge, however, looks at him with kindness and says, "You are free to go, there is no punishment." Yet the man does not move. "I can't leave," he says. "I am guilty." The judge shakes his head. "But I just told you. You are innocent." The man steps forward, places the chains around his own wrists, and sits down in the cell. Guilt is not an external force, it is self-imposed imprisonment. It seeps into our daily lives, in the small moments. A mother who beats herself up for not being more patient with her child. A man who cannot forgive himself for a mistake made years ago. A friend who avoids reaching out, afraid they have let someone down. Guilt whispers, "You are not enough." And so we live in self-created hells, punishing ourselves for crimes long since forgiven. No one needs to practice to gain what is already. Here's a beggar sits on the street, holding out his hands, desperate for money. He has forgotten that in his pocket is a note from his late father, a bank statement showing a fortune in his name. But he does not look. He is already rich. He simply does not know it. So it is with holiness. We do not need to become holy. We do not need to earn salvation. We already are what we seek. We have just buried it under layers of guilt, fear, and false identity. No one needs to practice to gain what is already his. They only need to stop looking elsewhere for what was never lost. Your holiness is the salvation of the world. A doctor who is sick cannot heal his patients. A drowning man cannot save another. How can we bring peace to the world when we are not at peace within ourselves? Holiness is not a private affair. It extends. The moment we see ourselves differently, we see the world differently. A father who once saw his son as a disappointment now sees his struggles with compassion. A woman who once viewed herself as unworthy now sees a world that reflects her love. The world responds to what we bring to it. If we bring guilt, we find blame. If we bring love, we find healing. Your holiness is not just for you. It is the key to freeing others. Unloving thoughts are fear in disguise. A man walks through a dark forest, heart pounding. He hears rustling in the bushes, shadows moving in the distance. Panic grips him. Then, a single ray of moonlight pierces the canopy, and he sees it was only the wind. The shadows were just trees. The danger was never real. Our unloving thoughts, uneasiness, depression, anger, fear, are shadows in the mind. We react to them as though they are real threats, but they are simply distorted perceptions. Worry is fear of an imagined future. Anger is fear disguised as attack. Guilt is fear wrapped in self-condemnation. And fear is the foundation of hell. So what happens when you shine the light? It is imperative for your salvation that you see them differently. A woman once carried a deep resentment toward her father. He had abandoned her when she was young, and she had built her entire life around the belief that she was unwanted. One day she learned the truth. Her father had been drafted into war. He had tried to return, but sickness had overtaken him, and he died alone, writing letters she never received. Everything changed. The story she had told herself for years was false. She had been loved all along. Situations, events, people. We must see them differently. This is not about changing reality. It is about seeing it as it truly is. A betrayal may have been a call for love. A failure may have been a hidden success. A painful past may have been a lesson in strength. As long as we hold on to our false perceptions, we will live in hell as soon as we let them go. Salvation. My unloving thoughts about blank are keeping me in hell. This is the exercise, the mirror, the test. Say it aloud. My unloving thoughts about my past are keeping me in hell. My unloving thoughts about my mistakes are keeping me in hell. My unloving thoughts about myself are keeping me in hell. Then, release. My holiness is my salvation. Feel it, accept it, let it replace the old story. If guilt is hell, what is its opposite? The final question. A child wakes from a nightmare, sweating, heart racing. He is terrified. The monsters were real. Then, he remembers. It was just a dream. This is what Jesus is doing in this lesson. He is shaking us awake. Guilt is hell, a dream of punishment we have clung to for too long. And the opposite of guilt? Wake up. The nightmare is over. Your holiness is your salvation. Now, open your eyes. Final thoughts. Lesson. 39 is not just a lesson. It is a key to waking up. Guilt is hell. You have been keeping yourself in chains. You can step out right now. No complex philosophy, no logical toys, no intellectual feats, just a simple, obvious truth. The only question is, will you accept it?